Okay, now we're recording. All right, so typically what I'll do is I'll go to my home folder, which is the tilde here. I have a projects folder because OneDrive likes to save everything everywhere else on this computer. So I put it someplace that OneDrive doesn't know about, which is in my home directory and projects. I also have a Web48 directory, and I haven't done any demos for you guys. Actually, we're in Web49. So I'll go up one directory and then go to Web9. And I don't think I've done any demos. There we go. So now I'm in C users, alpha, projects, Web49 demos. Alpha is just my user name for this one. And then I'm going to make a new directory called objects. So I'm not going to be doing any get or any of this type of stuff. It's a very simplistic type thing. So you probably won't have this repo. So I'll also see if I can increase the size of this a little bit. All right. So the idea here is that we have a fresh project with nothing in it. What I can do is I can use the touch command to make a new file. And we're going to just call this index.js. Now what this does is it makes it so that's the default file that Node looks for in this directory. And I can even type node and then period, and it'll run index.js because it knows that it's the file that's in this directory that it's looking for. Currently it does nothing. So what I can do is I can open up VS Code in the current directory. Over. I think I need to make that a little larger. All right. So I'm going to be switching back and forth between VS Code and this terminal instead of having a terminal inside of here, just for screen real estate purposes. This is not a very big screen for me. This is like, a 17-inch monitor, the Goodwill special. I think I spent $10 on this monitor. I'm very proud of it. It works really well. And then we've got index. So we'll just test by doing our normal hello world, and we'll run node. You can see it console log. So fresh project, and we didn't have to run npm run anything. We just typed node period, and it ran the index.js file. If you had something else other than index.js, you'd have to do / whatever the name of the file is. So we know that this is working. So we're connected, so we can actually do something. So actually, yeah, we'll use let just to not freak anybody out. And we're just going to call this people. And people is not going to be an object. It's going to be an array. So the way you can tell the difference, of course, is an array is square brackets. An object is curly brackets. So we're making an array of people. So I'm going to start out with me. So I've got name, Brian, and what did I have over here? I've already moved my notes off. All right, so we're going to do everyone's favorite food. So we're just going to call this food so that we don't have to do square bracket notation, but the next one we will. My favorite food is probably pizza. I'm a bit of a pizza snob, actually. And then we're going to do another one that has a space in it, and we're going to call this one favorite activity. So we're going to have to access this one You can't tell that this is my favorite activity. So we're going to have to access this one using square bracket notation because it has a space. And if you had a hyphen in it, you also need to use square bracket notation. Any questions so far? You guys have already been through most of this, I'm sure.
If it's a hyphen, you do, but if it's an underscore, you don't.
Nope. No, you can access it directly. So like if I take these quotes off, you can see that it doesn't like activity being there. If I do a dash, it complains the little red underlines go there. But if I use an underscore, it's golden. So for me to be able to run this here, I've got to wrap that in quotes for my key. All right, and then I guess I'll do an ID since might as well. Yeah, we'll just say this one 0. Give it something else. Oh, and I need a comma. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to do a few. So we're going to do ID name. Food. And I am not a fast person or fast typist tonight. Normally I'm a little faster than that. All right, so I'm going to copy this a few times. So we'll get, there's 3 people, 4 people, 5 people. All right, so I've just voluntold 5 people. I don't know who, that they need to give me personal information. No credit cards, please. So I'm just going to do ID 1 because that's the way that a computer would do it. They'd start at 0, start counting up. So somebody speak up. What's their name? Who's first name?
Albert.
What's your favorite food?
Sushi.
I like a little hamachi. Favorite activity?
Running.
Doesn't have to be programming. I'm going to do that lowercase instead of doing the other one as well, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so somebody else gets voluntold.
I'll go.
All right.
Name, I'll spell it for you. Long name. NYAMEKYE. Favorite food. EKYE. Sorry. Oh no, my name. You spelled it wrong.
Oh, EK. I was like, what is that?
Oh, sorry. So
EKYE.
NYAMEKYE. Yes, sir. Favorite food is an African dish called Banku. So BANKU.
Okay.
Favorite activity. Believe it or not, I love coding. I love music. So.
And you can combine the two.
Cool.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask, what is Banku?
Banku is a West African dish from Ghana, West Africa. It's basically corn, like mashed up corn, like fermented corn.
Okay, so like hominy?
I'm sorry?
Is it like hominy?
What's hominy? I don't know what that is.
It's like a fermented corn.
Yeah, kind of like that. Have you heard of fufu?
Yes.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a friend of mine who introduced me to some general African dishes, and fufu was one of them. And then there was another dish that was like, it was heavy in okra and very stringy. You'd eat it with bread.
Yep.
But I don't remember which one that one was now.
Well, so that banku, you can also eat it with okra as well.
Okay, so maybe it was Banku.
I think it probably was that. Was it kind of like whitish in a way?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
It's very, very tasty. I very much enjoyed it. Yeah. We just ate it with bread, so.
Yeah, you can remember that too. Yes, sir.
All right, so who else gets voluntold to give me their personal information? No credit cards.
Also,
Okay.
I'm Brittany. My favorite food is butter chicken. And my favorite activity is board games.
Okay. And
Does it matter if the number ID, the ID is a string?
oh, good catch. I didn't even notice that. I would have caught it eventually. I've been like, why is that a string? Let me go open it. All right. So next voluntold person.
I'll go.
I'm gonna be
Sam.
watching this until 6. It looks like that's learning from this. I like the way the state teaches.
It's Sam.
All right, Sam. Yeah.
You say your favorite food was microwave pizza?
No.
No,
Microwave
that was
pizza.
someone else talking. That wasn't me.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't mind microwave pizza, but I cook it in the oven.
yeah. Well,
Ah.
if it's your favorite food, you might need a wife or a girlfriend or something.
Yeah, but the thing is, sometimes I wake up early and I want pizza at 7 o'clock in the morning. And
That's true. That's true.
if I woke up my wife at 7 o'clock in the morning and say cook for me, I would no longer be married.
Yeah, that's good point. Good point.
I gotta
So,
go sushi too. Is that allowed to do the
Oh
same?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can't lie. So,
All right. So
And-
favorite activity.
oh, probably reading.
All right. So we got reading. Anything you prefer reading?
Classics.
Classics,
Ooh.
like English literature classics, or just
I like Russian. I like English. I like French. I think the Russian's the best, but I like English a lot too. American.
So what do you think of Wuthering Heights? Such a depressing book.
I haven't read that.
Oh man, you got to.
I'll
It's
put that on
like
my list.
it's like it's a tragedy book,
Oh, is it?
and it's really well written, but really bad at the same time. So the topic is bad. The everything else about it is bad, and it's just this guy that just abuses people, and then he gets abused by like a ghost, and then everybody dies in the end.
That sounds oddly good.
Yeah, it's almost what do you call it? Shakespearean, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Quite a sell.
All right, so we've got 5 people in here, and I'm not really. You guys already know how to add people with push and stuff like that. So that's not particularly interesting to me. I'm more interested in making things work with this data than adding stuff to it. And we might still do that, but probably what we're going to do is we're going to start adding in things at some point to it, but doing it by programming it instead of going in here and saying, something like that, even though that's not, I'm not going to go in here and edit it 5 times, but I might go and directly change something in it, and I might show you guys some interesting ways of doing that. But that's extra credit once we've got everything else done. So what if I wanted to output this in a sentence and just loop over it and just give output on what everybody's favorite stuff is? So if I made a function, and call it print all people, and we would pass in just an array. It doesn't have to be called anything special. Then you guys learned for loops already, right?
Mhm.
Do you guys
Yes.
learn any for eaches or any of that, or was that strictly forbidden yet? I think
Just for loops this week.
Yeah,
Okay.
4-H is next week.
So
Yeah.
we'll stick just with a for loop. So the first thing what we need is we need a starting point. So we'll do let I equals 0. Semicolons, not commas. That's actually one of those questions on your quiz or sprint. The next thing that we need is we need to determine a point where it needs to stop. So typically what you'll do is you'll do I less than, and then we need something to increment. So each time that it goes through this loop, it needs to do this, and then it checks this. So it starts at 0, goes up 1, then I is equal to 1, I is equal to 2, I is equal to 3, I is equal to 4, and then it should bounce. I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So once when we get up to where the length is equal to 5, I guess. So we get up to 5, print out that it'll cancel out the loop. It won't print out anything else. So because it's greater than the length, or I believe so. Yeah, it's not equal to, it's just greater than. So what we'll end up doing is just do, and I'm going to return something with this as well, but for right now, we're going to need to access these individual elements. So we're going to do our people array. And we're going to give it our index. So this is going to be people 0 first, and then the next time through it'll do people 1, then people 2, people 3, and people 4.
Does the I within that console log refer to the iteration, the same I that you're running in the for loop? It's the whatever iteration it's at. Okay.
Yeah, this is where it's getting it. So it starts at 0, and if you started this at 1, you would only get 4 things printed out, 3 things printed out, 2 things printed out, and 1 thing printed out. Well, actually, I guess it'd be 1 thing printed out, 2 things, 4 things, 3 things, 4 things, 5 things, because it starts at wherever it is. And so like if it was I equals 4, it would be this 5th one here. And I can actually get rid of that comma. It doesn't need to be there. That'll actually throw a problem in some things. But we want to print out everybody here. So we're just going to console log people I for right now, just to see what it looks like. We're just going to invoke the function. And I also made a mistake here. I want to actually have this as array. I'm losing my mind because we're going to be passing in people. So small mistake from my part. So what we're looking for is we're passing people in here. We're looping over what this is because who knows what people is. As far as we know, it's not people we're passing in.
People.
What if it's I don't know, aliens or something. Yeah, my hair is crazy enough today. It could be aliens. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and see if it explodes. There's a good chance that it will. Okay, cool. So it didn't explode. It also allows me to do this. All right, cool. So now each time I looped, it printed out that one object. You can tell that it printed out that one object because we don't have any square brackets around this. So it printed out literally one at a time. So let's test that theory where I've got I equals 1 right quick. And that should be
Say,
4.
Brian, can I stop you just really quick? Because
Yes, go ahead.
I feel like I have exactly the same thing, but mine blew up. So,
Nice.
and I look, oh, I do see, maybe it's a bracket issue. Maybe I'll keep working on it. Go ahead and keep going.
So like one of the tools that I have in, where did it go? Additional views, extensions. So I have one called Bracket Pair Colorizer installed. And there's ways of doing it inside of VS Code, but I've never actually tried to do it. I saw an article and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then went back to work. It happens a lot.
Is-
So if you notice, I have like this like yellow one here. It
Mhm.
shows that it ends here. You can even see the yellow line drawing to here to here. So it says
Okay.
that this starts and finishes here. And also this one here, you can see that when I have it on here, it starts and finishes here.
What's the name of that extension? Bracket
Bracket
colorizer?
pair colorizer.
Is that the
So-
first one or second? Because I see there's two in here in distinctions. There's a version, version 1 and version 2. Which one will be better?
No idea. I'm running version 1, and that doesn't mean that it's better.
Okay.
It's worked for me. I don't think anybody's stealing my code from it, so we should be all right.
I figured it out. I forgot to put a comma after the end bracket. Stupid thing.
A comma after the ending bracket.
After the closing bracket for each object, I didn't have a comma.
Oh,
Yeah, so
do
now
you mean
it's
like
fine.
the semicolons here?
No, not in the function, but in my object itself, you
Yeah.
have commas between the bracket objects. Yeah, I didn't have the commas.
Yeah, because so like an array is basically like a list, like a big shopping list.
Mhm.
So like if you have bananas, you would put bananas, comma, and then ramen noodles, comma, microwave
That's a-
pizza, comma, sushi, comma.
Good way to think about it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So that's why if you were just making a list of items, you would put commas between them.
Yep. Okay.
Let's eat grandma versus let's eat grandma.
Okay.
So because it really honestly computers are really stupid. You have to tell them to do everything, like annoyingly so. So now we're printing all people, but that's kind of boring. I think I'd probably prefer to console log. And we're gonna print all people. So what I would prefer doing is making another array that I'm going to return that has a bunch of strings in it and print that out. So if I do let people cat concatenated, I don't even know if that's spelled correctly. Probably not. But we're just going to say that it is spelled correctly. We're going to let people concatenated equal an empty array, right? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pushing in strings into this array here. So what we're going to do is people concatenated dot push, and then we're going to be pushing in a string literal. So we're going to do the little backticks, and we're going to say $ curly brackets, and this is going to be ARR element I, and now I can start using this dot notation and name. So without me going crazy, this should print out a list of names. So we've got Brian, Albert. I apologize. I probably will murder your name just in advance. Is it Naya Mikai?
You're pretty close. It's Nyameche. So Nyameche.
cool.
Nyameche.
Yep, there you go.
So the K is like a
Nyameche.
C sound.
Yeah, so so the NYA is like like mañana, like nya.
Mhm.
And then the ME is me, and then the che is like a che sound. So Nyameche. So
Okay.
Nyameche.
So
Is
what's
that-
really funny is the first two syllables are, you could literally translate those to Japanese, and then the che would be hard in Japanese.
Nice. But the funny thing is, I mean, this is obviously not English, so it's from a Tree dialect. So So my name literally means God's gift, literally in the African, well, not African, but in the Ghanaian dialect. So Nyame means God, Kye means gift. So basically just God's gift.
Okay. Brittany and Sam. So we're trying to get all of these where they're printing out in an array, and I'm going to return people concatenated. So concatenating basically means you're trying to combine things together, like in a string. A lot of the times you'll hear string concatenation, and so this is just me calling it people concatenated because it's semantic. I understand it, and it doesn't go anywhere outside of this function. If it was defined inside of this function, it's what we would call scoped to this function. So this let never leaves here. It goes in, it cannot come out. But we can return something and then console log it or assign it to a variable or whatever you want. So we've got name in there. And if I save this, I believe, I could be wrong, this should print out an array of just the names inside of our array. So if I do that and I run it, you can see now it's Brian's favorite food is, Albert's favorite food is, and it's Nyame Che, right? Did I get that?
Namachek.
Namachek. Okay, I will get this. It's my goal for tonight. Favorite food is. So we've got all of these favorite foods coming through, and the idea here is now we can just start adding in more of these concatenations. So let's put in. We're going to do $ curly bracket. And then this one will be food. So we'll go ahead and do that one change, one test. Now, this one here is the one where I'm going to go ahead and ask everybody for square bracket notation on how we're going to do this, because we're going to have to back two separate square brackets together. That's weird. So, and so we got $ curly brackets to break into where we can actually put a variable and concatenate. So we're going to do array I, but we can't do favorite activity like, dot,
Right.
because there's a space there. So we can't use dot notation. We got to use square bracket notation. So how would we do that?
Just another bracket with quotes and then the name of the title of the favorite activity.
Yeah, of the key.
Right.
All right, so let's see if this works for Simplicity. Awesome. So I think that actually works.
Oh,
I didn't even have to break it. Here, let's see if I can make it a little wider. All right, cool. So it's a little clumsy, and there's better ways of doing this, of course. You might actually have like a component or something like that once we get into web-based programming. Now, I'm going to kind of do something a little different and show you guys kind of where some of this stuff is going and why it's important to know this. And we'll get back to this. So let me pull up a new tab. Come on, drag that up. I have a super insanely ultra wide screen that will not fit this window. All right. So there is a website that I like to use in a lot of my demos, especially in Unit 2. It's called the Rick and Morty API. So you can just Google Rick and Morty API. And even if you don't like the show, the API is awesome. They have pictures and all kinds of stuff that you can get access to. So on my system here, I have an extension called JSON View that allows it to format it so instead of being like all on one line that nobody can understand, that it makes objects look prettier when you see an object in from an API call. And so anytime you hear API call, you shouldn't think of anything really complicated. This web browser is an API call. So it did an API call to rickandmortyapi.com and then just displayed it the way that it's designed to display it. So if I go over here to docs and I go to like character, get all characters, and I select this, I go here, this is what JSON View does. If you saw it really fast, it like flashed like a huge long string of text that nobody cares about.
Mhm.
And this translated it into human readable form where it's got nice spacing and, you know, it's not all one run-on sentence. It's actually got information in here. So if you notice, if I went to here, it gives us back an object, as you can see the curly bracket. Let me make this a little bigger. So you can see that it gives us back an object and it has two keys in it, info and results. So this info is yet another object. So it's an object inside of an object. So this is where you're getting to that nesting stuff. And the info gives us back all kinds of information, like how many items are there? So they've got 671 characters from Rick and Morty in there. They have no life. 34 pages worth. There's also a next button and a previous button. So I don't know, let's click on the next button.
How did you get to that page where it's a more organization of the objects?
I have an extension called JSON View.
Oh, okay. So is this
Yeah.
objectifying every one of these characters? Like I saw it, like it had all this info about each one.
Yep.
That's rad. That's rad.
Yep. So this is page 2. You can see, you know, we got 21. I can even go to page 3. You can see up here on the URL bar, all it does is add a question mark page 3 to it. So if I want to go back to page 1, I just delete that, and it's API/character, and it gives me this information.
And I'm
So-
sorry, how did you get to this list of all of them? Because I'm just seeing one.
You're probably on character and then like say a number.
Okay,
So notice how I've got character/1 on the URL.
yeah, okay.
So if you get rid of the slash whatever number that is,
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
then you'll get to the big list, which is the big, fat, hairy goal of teaching you guys arrays and objects, is so you understand this stuff,
Okay, thank you.
or this stuff, depending on which side your thing is. So, you know, you can actually click on different things like here's a location, you know, here's the picture. You know, it gives you back all of this information, so you can actually generate stuff in a program, and that's what you're going to be doing next unit. Like the first week, you're going to be able to access this, no problem.
And that first part, is that an object within an object?
So this is actually results is we're actually in an object. Then
Yeah.
we've got results, which is a key. So it would be object.results. And object.results is an array. So you could
Mhm.
loop over the array if you knew how big results is.
Where I'm seeing name,
Yeah.
name Earth C137 though, I don't see a
Yeah.
closing for the first
this-
object.
we'll go ahead and get into that here in a second. So
Okay, sorry.
oh, that's fine. So we're going to go to results square bracket 0, which is this one here, and it goes pretty far down, right there. So it goes all the way down to URL created, and then there is where you've got your ending bracket and a comma. Does that make sense?
The
So
commas because it's moving on to another object after
Yep.
that.
yeah, it's in that list, and so as it goes across the list, you've got well, what do you call it? You know, array element 0, array element 1, array element 2, 3, etc. So these don't have any names or anything. They're just array element 0, array element 1.
How are these APIs though? Are they just because isn't it an application programming interface? But these are just these are just objects, aren't they?
Yep.
That's
That's
a-
a
that
dirty
is an
little
API?
secret.
Okay.
Yeah, if you know objects and arrays, you can access pretty much any API out there that's been written in the last, say, 15 years. Pretty cool. Unless it's XML, and if it's XML, just forget about it. So if I went from, you know, we're just going to call this object called an object because we don't even know what it's named. It doesn't matter. If we pass this directly into a function that said, you know, looped over this results, how would we end up doing that? So we could do, I can literally just copy the entire page in here. And now we've got 663 lines of stuff. Oh, that's horrible. So what if, and I called this object, by the way. So if I, if we start from the top here, so we know that we've got object dot results. So we'll do, and if I wanted to get to the first element in the object dot results array, how would I do that? Just directly access it. Square brackets, but which one? Bueller. All right, I've already lost everybody, I can tell.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're asking.
So if I want to get to, see how results is an array?
Yeah,
If I wanted to get to this first result, so
Oh.
the first element,
I see. That would be results index 0.
so let me save that because I just console logged object result 0. And this is an enormous, crazy, scary monster object with arrays and nesting and all kinds of stuff, right? Well, is it? So we just got that first one right here. This is the same information that we have over here. So we got ID 1, name Rick Sanchez, status alive, species human, type, who knows? I don't know. What if I were to try? That's a lot of information. What if I were to try to do print all people here and then pass in? See what happens here. Okay, I'm just gonna have to scroll. So what if I did print all people, but instead of print all people, I did object results because it's still an array. And that array, each one has a name. It doesn't have a food or a favorite, you know, a favorite activity or anything.
But it
it's
has a
not-
name.
It has a name, so if I save that, I mean, it might crash. So we've got all of our information here. And all of this stuff here. So you notice how we're getting this undefined because it doesn't exist. So we just reused that array or that function to print this out. But you know, if we go up to you know, let's see, I'm here. So Rick Sanchez's favorite food is obviously, and his favorite activity. Oh, sorry, no, it was favorite activity
Time travel.
is,
I like it.
we'll say science. Oh, I put a
Oh.
comma in the wrong place. Colon, science. So we've got, you know, key value pair, key value pair, key value pair on all of these. All right, so now if I save this, this first one is going to be, there you go. So we just made a big, huge monster, crazy edit where the file went from like 20 lines long to 600 and who knows what by copying and pasting some random page on the internet. And we got more data. Now there's ways of accessing it. We'll get into that next unit. But this is the reason why. So imagine you're making a website. We'll just say it's Amazon.com. Small website. Some people have heard of it. And let's say that you wanted to have you have an endpoint where it says, you know, the endpoint instead of, you know, Rick and Morty characters, what if it's products and it's every product that we sell? So it's just an array of information. You've got a product name, you've got their favorite food, I mean, you know, their description, things like that. So now you're getting data from somewhere else is being brought in. So because you're bringing it in from somewhere else, you're not hard coding in this stuff into a web page anymore. You're not having to say, oh my gosh, I need to add a product on page 42. So you go to page 42 and you edit it. So that's where this is where you get into web applications more than just making a web page that looks pretty, which is pretty cool. I like doing that too. But the idea is that you're able to now make something that grows and can change, and you can make it so that it doesn't have things that are, you know, sold out, you know, because, you know, if you're out of pencil sharpeners, then you probably don't want to have that on your product page. Or at least not show a price, is what Amazon actually does.
Can you
But-
say, where exact, I get that you put object within, well, the entire set of objects, all that data within OBJ, which is object, right? But
Yeah. So I
What,
made a new let object equal, and then I literally pasted that object from this page.
and results came from where?
Results is actually if you notice, let object is an object itself.
Mhm.
So you've got a key here and a key here.
Okay,
And I think this probably needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but I don't think I've got. Let me see
Now,
if I've got
It
a,
looks, oh, you can have, so the top one is just one object with curly braces, but then results is actually an array of objects.
Yep.
And they're all part of object?
Yep, but they're object.array. Let me go back a little bit.
Object.array. I lost you
Oh,
on that
sorry,
one.
object.results. Sorry.
Oh,
uh,
right. So if I wanted to access something in the results array, I would
Yeah.
have to say object dot results, and then I would, if I wanted, like the first one, then I'd put the brackets 0 for the
Yeah,
first
for this-
object, which is ID 1.
Yep.
I
And
thought,
then what if I wanted something inside? I'm sorry, whoever I just cut off.
That's
What
okay.
if I wanted something inside that?
Is that what you're
Oh.
also asking, Albert?
what I was gonna say is after object, I thought was the brackets. I thought it was object, brackets, whatever index we were in, which,
Hmm.
and
Well,
then
it-
dot results.
So with object, because it's a curly bracket, that's an object where results is a square bracket, so it's an array. So you can only loop over an array. You can't loop over an object, or at least not very well. You would need to use some other means to do so. So like object keys or object values or something. It gets messy.
So part of what we have to do for our sprint probably is to access these items. So how would I access something inside the results array in one of these objects and one of those lines?
Okay, so let's say that we have which one would you like to get to?
Well, I'm just looking at the top. So if we looked at object dot results,
Uh-huh.
and then we have bracket 0 because it's the first object inside the array. But
Mhm.
then how do I say I want the value of species, or even better, how do I say I want the key of the value human?
Okay, so the key of value human is probably going to be a little longer than what I would want to get into tonight.
Okay, so just the,
but,
okay,
but this is easy. Species is much easier.
okay.
And next week will probably be more appropriate to bring that up, because we'll get more into object.keys and objects.value and mapping and things like that make it a lot easier.
Okay.
So in this one, we've got object dot results. Then we've got a square bracket 0, which is this object here. And then you would do dot species.
Oh, that's it?
So let's go to the bottom, and we're going to do object dot results square bracket 0. So we're in the first element dot species. If I save that and run it, you can see it's a human.
That's it. It just brings back the value. Okay.
Yep. And
Thank
you
you.
can even concatenate strings if you wanted to.
Okay.
Okay, I've lost everybody else, right?
No, I got it. But when you are doing that, when you're referring or invoking within an object like that, you still use the brackets for an array, but you can use the dot notation instead of the curly brackets for the object.
Yeah.
It's just cleaner and easier. Could
Yeah,
you
the
use
dot-
could you
Oh,
use
yeah,
the curly
absolutely.
brackets?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So like, if I have, let's say that I have an array, and I just have 1, 2, 3. Let me console log my array, not control A, control S. Told you I can't type tonight. So we've just got this array of 1, 2, and 3. And if I wanted to access element 0, it would be 1. right here. Yeah, if I wanted to change this to, you know, that, and then I wanted to access that, then I could do that, and it would be Bri, right? So all we're doing is we're accessing with square brackets what's in this array. So what if I do a type of my array? You guys have seen type of, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I'm not
It
familiar
tells you.
exactly what it is though.
it
Okay.
says number, character.
Tells if
Boolean,
it's a Boolean string number.
Yep. So what do you
not
think
character, string.
type of my array is going to come back as?
Well, it depends. 0 index would be a number, but
Well, I'm
1
just-
index.
I'm not putting in anything else. I just want to know what this is.
The whole array.
Yeah.
Is it object?
It's going to be an object. So in an object, it's not an array, it's an object. But it's a special object that you can loop over because it's a numbered object. So, you know, you've got a 0, 1, 2, 3. The square brackets in an object still work. They're just not numbered. They're keys. So if I go my array 0, I can't do this. It's illegal because you can't have a number as the starting point of a variable. So they've got it so that you've got, oops, sorry, square brackets, not curly brackets. So, and that's the same way with my array, and let's say we want to do name. Sorry, quote name. So this is actually the original way of doing it, but dot notation takes up less space. You don't have to do quotes around things, things like that. So this one's actually undefined. Yeah, I don't have a dot name. We're still on my array. But if we were to do, say, object dot results 0, or even better, object like that, we get Rick Sanchez. Because you can use square bracket instead of an object. All right. So this object has a key called results. It's even obstructing my view, which is really annoying. And you can see property results. That's got an ID number, string, favorite activity is string. And we're going to element 0 and then to name. So results is actually an object, but it's a special kind of object that's an array that it can, you know, its key value pairs, its keys are all numbers and they're automatically assigned by the computer. So this one, this my array here, this key is element 0. This key is element 1, and this key is element 2. So
I'm
that's the
sorry.
reason. Huh? Go ahead.
By how did you get different results by invoking it, whether it was bracket or dot notation for results? Like why did it become different?
It's the same result.
Oh, okay. I thought
Yeah. So if I
You-
go object dot results 0, we're still going to have Rick Sanchez right here because we're dealing with object dot results 0.
my bad. I misunderstood. I thought you changed it to bracket notation and you got a whole different result.
Nope, it's the exact same result.
Okay.
And even if we go dot name here, it'll do it. So you can, anytime that you have, no, it's not going to give it to me. There. Anytime that you have a, you know, a square bracket or a curly bracket, you can use square bracket notation. Anytime that you have a square bracket, it has to be square bracket notation and it has to be a number. And that's why, like, whenever we loop, it puts in a number from that let I equals whatever. It's always a number. So it's either 0 or 1 or 2 or however many it needs to go through. Hopefully that makes sense. Did I lose everybody else?
Not lost, but so you can use brackets is what you're saying, but
Yeah.
you have to use them for the indexes of arrays, obviously, but you
Yeah.
can, they're interchangeable with the dot notation on these objects, but for sake of keeping it not confusing, you really use them for the objects, right? Other than
Yeah, the only time that you would use it is when you have a space or it starts with a number or it has a hyphen or a dash, depending on where you're from. A minus symbol. So because underscores are allowed in JavaScript, you can't start an array, a variable with a number. So if I do let 0 times, see how it's underlining it, and it's saying, hey, it doesn't like this. It's really angry. But if I remove the 0 and I do times 0, then it works. So you can have a number in there, you just can't lead it with a 0 or a 1 or 2 or whatever, just some number. So it's the same thing with, if we go back up to this, we can't do 0. No, it's actually allowing it, but you shouldn't be allowed to do that. You would actually have to put it in quotes like that. Then you could theoretically do it in square brackets. So like here, but it would have to be a string 0. It wouldn't be allowed to do that. I think this should say hi there. Yeah. So you can, I just have never tried doing that. But yeah, that's just experimentation with anything else. We'll change that back to name. And we've got Rick Sanchez again. So what if I wanted to access something deeper? Like, let's see here. Yeah. Let's look up origin name. So let's start by doing origin on that same line that we were doing Rick Sanchez. We'll do origin and then print it out. So you can tell that we printed out yet another object inside of there. And I just want the name. So now we got that. So we just went in pretty deep into the logic on that. So we went from object to results, array 0, origin, name. So let's go back to up here. So we went from object to results. And if you notice, we've got the square bracket there. So that's this is element 0 here. So square bracket 0 is this one. Then we went to origin, and then to name, and then it printed out the value of that path.
It's like a logic tree, but you just gotta like have the syntax right to be able to get through it, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like this is like I don't want to say this is the hardest part about it, but it's a lot to get get your head wrapped around is nesting. And I usually find that tonight's like the perfect night to introduce nested objects because it just works really well. So what if we went up here and we wanted to add something else in here that was nested, so like an array. So what we could do is we could do, I think I'm going to actually do this instead of trying to add it in manually. So my friends are Rachel, and we'll just say like that. So if I wanted to access people element 0, which is this one here, dot friends, let me just do it down here because why not? So we do E-O-P-L-E. This should print out an array. Yeah, see, it didn't. It didn't like that for whatever reason. Let me see here. Oh, I've got friends equals. Oh, it's getting old. It's getting late. I need friends colon, not equals. Can't use equals.
Equals would make a lot more sense, I think.
Yeah, but because it's key value pair, somebody else invented that long before I was born. So I'm gonna just blame it on them. So you can see that we've got Rachel, John, and Robert. And if I just wanted Rachel to show up, I could just do 0. So people, element 0 is me. Dot friends, element 0 is Rachel.
Are those index values in arrays are called elements?
Yeah, those are elements.
Okay.
So the first index is John. The second index should be Robert. Third index doesn't exist, so it should be undefined. Yeah. Hopefully that worked. Did I just confuse more people? This is showing you different things that you'll find in real life. And it just takes a little getting used to, a little bit of practice, a little bit of thinking about. More than anything, it's nothing that's hard. It's just it's unnatural to think of things like this. But yeah, it's like a logic tree, like what Sam said.
So this is a little bit more advanced than we're going to see tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's probably more advanced. So I don't know. I haven't even looked at this sprint recently. Probably the exact same sprint that we've been doing before. I typically don't even look at the sprints until the weekend is over. So I guess we got sprint challenge. I've got this on a different screen, so.
Yeah, Brian, I'm about to head out. I just want to say thank you a lot. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
This really helped a lot. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was nice meeting you.
Likewise. Good luck on the sprint challenge, everybody.
Oh yeah.
You too.
So on the sprint challenges on advanced CSS and intro to JavaScript. So they're probably going to do something with responsiveness. It's your normal npm install and npm run test, like what you've been doing. I usually will do a run test in one, and then npm run start in another, and that way you get, if something explodes and you get one test passes, it'll show up on the other one and say, hey, this thing crashed on this line, what's wrong with you? So it makes things work really well. And if you go into the README, it actually tells you to do that as well. So open up one with, the test and one with npm start. And if you hear me say npm run start, it's just because I'm old. That they used to only work with npm run start. Back in the day, 2 years ago when I learned this. So, all right. So it says there's a minimum viable product for responsive design. It says take 10 minutes to review the code that's already been provided for you. So they basically have like a directory with like the task 2A is what it is. And review the provided design file. I can't show you that. And basically put it into the index file. So basic styling goes into the index CSS file. I would probably say that it's got a mobile design file. It's probably already done, and they want you to change it with queries, a media query, so that the mobile design works at 500 pixels.
So the mobile design is the minimum first, right?
Yep.
Or yeah.
And honestly, if you don't have that in say 30 minutes after starting it, I would go ahead and start on the JavaScript, see where you get stuck on, and then if you get stuck, go back to the responsive, and then come back after you've got some work on the responsive done.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because it just get your brain off of the JavaScript, because a lot of the times, if it's not right, just revert back to where it is. Don't delete the function, but delete the stuff inside of the function, and make sure it didn't crash anything when you deleted your code, and just go back, do something else, come back, read the directions again, make sure you've got all of the things that it's asking you to do in the directions. They like to split up those parameters so you want to do an array, and then this other stuff, and then this other stuff, and this other stuff. They like to do that to you. And then they say, hey, on the output, it should look like this. But just make sure you've got the right parameters in there, and you should be fine. And then you navigate to index.js, complete the MVP challenges. Yeah, and it's got all of the normal stuff in there. And it's an open note test, so it's not like you're stuck with, oh, you need to do this by memory. Heck, I can't even do it by memory half the time.
What's your favorite resource? What's your favorite resources for when you need to reference like arrays or methods or whatever?
I'm particular on the Mozilla documentation, so the MDN network, but every once in a while I'll go into the Microsoft documentation as well. There's also Geeks for Geeks is another one that I like a lot. They have a lot of good harder things, not anything in here. But if you're trying to figure out a way of doing something, you Google, say, how do I do this to an array? Because you may not remember that it's splice, for example, or, I always screw up slice and splice because splice doesn't make any sense to me, but it does, but it doesn't.
So this is Geeks for Geeks that you can actually look up how to do this particular method. Is that what you're saying?
No, sometimes, yeah. And some of them are more complex, usually more like, hey, I'm trying to reverse a linked list or something, would be on like a job interview or something. And they have those kind of things. But in general, it's usually MDN documentation that I'll go to. And of course, this stuff makes it so you're better at looking at that documentation as well. Because like when I started 2 years ago, I had my own automotive shop. I was not like a computer expert. I am geeky, very geeky. So I've had computers, and I kind of knew how to use the command line and Linux and things like that, but I never really made money doing programming. It was all helping my sister get a website running. that kind of stuff.
Right.
It wasn't any styling or anything like that. Except for Bootstrap. Bootstrap doesn't count though.
What now? We're not allowed to use Bootstrap right now for CSS, are we? But
Nope.
does it help you build?
No, I wouldn't learn Bootstrap right at the moment until you have to. And then for me, I don't even use Bootstrap anymore because I know it's enough CSS.
Dude,
So-
I made a WordPress site and I really wonder like why anybody would build using CSS. I cranked out a decent like a WordPress site like less than an hour with zero experience, and I still use it.
Well, if I logged into my other computer, I would show you some nightmare CSS that you would just barf at.
Yeah, I don't like CSS. Especially after using that making a WordPress site. It's like all, it's
Yeah.
like making a meme with an app. It was easy.
A lot of the times those are already themed out. So somebody else has already written the CSS on those. So, but yeah, this is more like, so for me, I get paid a lot of money, over 100K to work for Williams Sonoma and West Elm. So it's the same company, just different things. And they've moved me over to Pottery Barn Teen, which right now they have some really neat like Harry Potter things going on. And so the last like 2 weeks I've been doing styling, like in Sass, which is fine. You can do some other things in Sass that you don't need to do in like regular CSS. But you still need to know CSS to do Sass. Basically somebody else designs it. I make it look like what they designed. And even still, I might get called out that, hey, I messed up this style, even though I'm very good at styling.
Sass is like a CSS substitute or what?
No, it's a CSS preprocessor. So you'll hear Sass, Less, and SCSS. So those are the three main ones that you'll hear about. The other one you'll hear about is Tailwind. Tailwind is a lot more popular now because Tailwind has a way of compiling to make itself smaller. So if your page only uses certain things, it doesn't leave you with like an 80 megabyte CSS file. It leaves you with, a 400 kilobyte CSS file. So it's a lot faster. But that's future stuff, and it may still change. By the time you guys are graduated, something else might be interesting. So, and then same thing with like learning languages. Like I know React, I love React, it's my favorite, but I don't even use React in my daily job. But because I know React, I was able to learn everything else quicker. Because once you learn one thing, everything else, it's like hitting a domino. Everything folds very fast.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of Lambda grads are using like a lot of people I've talked to on LinkedIn and stuff are actually React developers, or they're using it. Like
Yeah, React is hands down the most popular, but it's still less than half of the grads that get into React. But then again, if we did like Vue or Angular or whatever, it would be even less.
So we just focus on building the vanilla JavaScript skills before going to React, or should I start looking ahead to that?
No, you'll be doing vanilla JavaScript for a week, and we're going to teach you all that you need to know in vanilla JavaScript to learn React. And then React is like a month and 3 weeks. So it's a lot of React.
I've heard it's pretty hard if you don't know any of it before.
It's not hard, it's just different.
Yeah.
So, and when you guys get through with the first sprint next unit, I'll drop a link to a YouTube video that I've done that everybody that has done it has really honestly succeeded. It's basically teaches you how to get started from scratch in React. And it's not necessarily your best practices or anything else, but if you needed to, you could go out and you could sell a website if you had to. You're doing it the way that I show you. And it just doesn't have like a lot of information on, the details of making that web page, but it's all of the DevOps from getting it from like Git, making a new Git, to making a new Create React app, to deploying it. So, and those three are also taught in next unit, but they don't teach you at the beginning. And I found that people who want more work, after they've gotten all their homework done, it's 7 o'clock my time, 5 o'clock Pacific, and they're like, yeah, I've still got some energy. I want to do something. And they can't find anything, if they go onto YouTube, it's always a 4 or 5 hour tutorial or something. But if you follow the 1 hour thing that I've got, you might be able to get something up and running and then mess with it. It doesn't even have to be any good, but just play with it for like an hour or two every single day, and you'll be much better. And
Also, sorry.
go ahead. Yeah.
I was also going to say, it's also really nice that I don't know about obviously next module, but it was also really nice this module that you guys have enough pre-recorded classes to choose from.
Yeah.
So, if, you're feeling chipper one day, then you can just kind
go
of
back and review, or have
or jump
like,
ahead.
There's a few videos that you can find that are from the part-time group, which we don't really have a part-time class right now. So they're kind of, I think that they're saying that they were rebuilding the curriculum for part-time, because part-time was basically like 2 weeks for every 1 week. So you had 4 hours a day, where one day you were in class, the next day you were studying, class, study, and then, eventually sprint. And so that worked out really well. I went through the part-time program just because I was working 24/7. But the big thing is that it's not very consistent for results. So where the full-time program, we know that it works. We've got enough data where we're like, yeah, this is working fine. And so I'm confident that if you get enough practice, not just, hey, I did an assignment, I'm good. At the end of this, I get a gold star and somebody's going to hire me. But spend some time and get interested in something specific, something that either you don't know well enough, go through and practice it more, or something that you really are interested in, go through and build it. It doesn't even have to be any good. Nobody's going to sit there and say, oh, this is horrible. Why did you even do this? Nobody's going to do that. You guys are all students. You're supposed to be learning. And so for me, I would put in, instead of 4 hours a day, I would put in like 8 hours a day. If you included the weekends, that was my average. So 5 times 8, so like 40 hours.
Is it safe to say with this entire program, it's more, the skills, do you kind of make it so you do it so much that it's almost kind of subconsciously automated with you, or?
Some of it will. A lot of it is, I'd say probably the number one thing that we teach is how to Google. More than anything is how to do research, how to read documentation. So a lot of these things, we won't feed it to you directly. We will indirectly tell you, hey, there's this extra little thing that you need to know. But we're not really going to teach it to you directly because we need you to go out and look for it. So kind of like that math.random thing from a couple of days ago. Math.random is, we didn't teach you that in class, or at least I don't think we did. That's something that you had to Google and research. So we're slowly introducing you to how to research, and you'll find people complaining well, you guys never taught us how to Google or whatever. I'm like, we did. We showed you by example and said, hey, in order to complete this, we need you to figure out how to do this. And we do very simple things and give you hints on what to Google for. And eventually, those patterns you will recognize, and you'll start typing in to Google. Like you'll learn that you don't have to type in JavaScript. You can just type JS space splice, and it'll give you documentation just with those 2 words. Or JS space push, or JS space pop, shift, unshift. All of those will come up with stuff. And as you get used to it, you won't even have to think about what you're Googling. You'll be like, okay, well, I've got this error, and you'll already know what part of that error you need to look at to figure out you know, if it's good or bad.
Will it, something Britt mentioned in the past is like a lot of Mozilla stuff is arrow function based.
Yep.
And I mean, we've touched on it, but we're not obviously.
Like next week we'll
Wonderful
go
on it.
into it. So if I wanted to make an arrow function, so a function is a variable type, kind of like objects, bool, number, string, all of those are object types. So a function is technically an object type. So if I have, you know, a function, you know, something, parentheses, curly brackets, right? And then we have a hi there. And I invoke the function like that. So this is the type of function that you're used to,
Mhm.
where it does, you know, it runs it, we're console logging what's been returned. Very, very simple, right? So what this is doing is this is declaring a new variable named something. So what I can do is I can do const something. Now you can tell we've got these little underlines here, so something isn't right. So we're going to equal this to a function, but we can't equal it to parentheses curly bracket, but we can do curly brackets arrow like that. Now, there's kind of a reason why we don't really show you that all that much, but just recognize that, you know, the same thing here, you know, we do parrot. That, so I can still pass in an argument into this parameter. So parameter 1, it still says hi there. And so it's going to be returning hi there. It's pretty much a useless function.
Yeah.
But it still works. So there are advantages and disadvantages to using an arrow function. And for one, when we get, since we did objects, let's see, let me pull up the objects assignment. I had this open earlier.
Yeah, and said in the multiple choice, don't use arrow functions within an object, right?
Mm-hmm. Because of this. So this is something we'll describe a lot better in classes. And let me just see real quick. I just pulled up the other code. I don't think that we got into putting a function in anything, did we today?
No.
Yeah, we didn't put a function into an object, but you can. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me to do so. Just
It's kind of weird. It kind of throws me off, but you can do it with like a key and then make it the function the value, right?
Yep.
And it just looks really ugly to me, but I can understand how it would make a more complex object. But
yeah, but you know, if we go and look up JavaScript function meme, images, here we go. This is perfect one.
yeah, memes for that. That's cool.
Yeah. So when someone asks you about arrow functions in JavaScript, this is the difference between arrow functions and normal functions. What
That's
is
awesome.
the difference? This is the difference. I asked, what is the difference? This is the difference.
That's great.
I love that show.
Abbott Abbott and Costello did something very similar back in the 1920s or 30s or 40s.
That's a great meme template right there of those two. I've seen
Yeah.
that do a lot of memes.
Kind
But,
of back, sorry.
But well, yeah, but this is an actual word in JavaScript, and it confuses the heck out of everybody because you're like, what does it do? And I'm like,
So
but
I get
yeah, you can't put this in here.
But in general, with if there's no error functions, if you have this within a function, then it is referring to that, or within an object, it's referring to that object.
Yep.
But then there becomes a different like level of scope where
Mhm.
there's global and local. Like a local
Yep.
would be within an object, right?
Yeah, it
But what
starts
about
getting-
that? Yeah, it starts getting
it
more
started
complicated.
getting really complicated, and it's not really even worth discussing because most places have moved away from class-based programming anyway. At least in the JavaScript world, there are still a few places that are a little bit, into the classes. If you're programming Angular, almost everything is class-based. I think they have function-based now, but still almost everybody uses classes.
So is hoisting
Old React uses classes.
is hoisting like where you make it global by you hoist it to the beginning of the function or what?
That's out of scope right now.
Okay, no pun
That's
intended.
getting into a little more humor / I don't know that I necessarily want to go into it in an objects lesson.
Thank you.
But yeah, it can get really complex when that happens. So, yeah, I think that went over really well. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'll post this here in a little bit. Where is stop recording?